I'm Red Robinson, and these are the Legends of Rock. Johnny Rivers turned a successful singing career into producing music, and he tells us how it happened.
Well, I've always liked producing. I always spent a lot of time in the studios and was friends with a lot of producers and Phil Spector and people like that. And I just wanted my own label just to try to, to experiment with new talent and people I had met and whatever. And I just renegotiated when my contract was up with Imperial and they wanted to re-sign me. I just made that part of the deal. I wanted my own label, and they distributed it for me and whatever. And we got lucky. I mean, the first group we signed was a group called the Versatiles. We changed their name to the Fifth Dimension, and I had just met Jimmy Webb, and we had started working together, and I signed him into my publishing company, and we did that first album, Up and Away, and it was, we won a couple of Grammys and did really well. So the label was off and running. And so it wasn't a thing that I really went into gung-ho, but it turned out, to be successful right off the bat, so it did consume a lot of my time. But I sold it in 1970 because I had to make a decision whether I wanted to be a record company executive or continue being Johnny Rivers the artist, and it wasn't even close as far as what I wanted to do. I enjoy playing and performing, which I've always done, so that's what we wound up doing.
You started out, I noticed, with all of the original recordings on Imperial with Chuck Berry things and that, but Poor Side of Town, which you wrote, it says that you were reluctant to put that out, your own composition. Were you?
Well, only because it was so different than the previous songs that we had success with. All the other things were all Memphis and Maybelline and Mountain of Love and Seventh Son and Secret Agent Man, which were all kind of like live recordings. And so to come out with a lush ballad with strings and whatever was really taking a big gamble. But it was so different that it turned out to be one of my biggest records. It was number one in about 3 weeks or something. So it was a gamble that paid off.
But it seemed like reading the biography that maybe you weren't sure of doing that yourself, and that kind of explains it right there.
Yeah, that was the main reason. I mean, we knew it was a good song, and that musically it was good. Musicians loved it and whatever, but we weren't sure if the public would go for it after the type of songs I had been doing in recordings and whatever, the up-tempo, live, hand-clapping, sing-along kind of things. And so the record company was a little reluctant too, but Lou and I just made a decision. We just thought it was good enough to...
But in those days, to be on Imperial Records as a young man with some of your idols like Fats Domino and Rick Nelson must have been something.
It was great. When we recorded that live album at the Whiskey, we didn't have a record deal, and so we took it to everyone in town, every label, and they all turned it down. And so Lou... and a couple other guys I was involved with at the time came to me and kind of were sort of reluctant to tell me that the only company that had accepted it was Imperial Records. Imperial Records? Are you kidding? Because I'd been collecting records on that label since I was a little kid. Because there was a lot of great artists that were just local successes, in Louisiana, South Louisiana, stuff like that. But they were on Imperial Records.
Got legends? We do. RedRobinson.com.